All right, hey guys, Mr. Kyle, Myers Mathematics, and let's just jump right into it. This is writing linear equations. So we're going to need three different kinds of line equations. I believe, as far as I know, there's like four of them, really, but one of them is like even less useful than standard form. Standard form is almost completely useless. But slope-intercept form is okay. It's okay. It's okay. Slope-intercept form is when we have y equals mx plus b, meaning we have a y thing, then an equals, then an x, and then a number. Right? Like it's in that order. The m and the b are the numbers. Okay, the m is being multiplied by the x, that's the slope. The b is the other number. So it's basically y on the left, right? So y is on the left, x and the number are on the right. So where they're at is super important, because if they're not on the right side of the equal sign, then you got to move them over. So y has to be on the left, x and the number have to be on the right. If it's like that, then it's in slope-intercept form. So basically, you want to solve for y. If y is by itself, then you're basically in slope-intercept form. Okay, so let's do that. Let's solve for y. All right, this is like a literal equation or a multivariable equation. I'll put a link to that one in the description below. But basically, what we're going to do is we're going to pretend like this is a number. Right? Pretend 3x is a number. Pretend it's just a 3. If it was 3 minus 2x, I would need to subtract this. So I subtract it on both sides. Okay. Now, I cannot combine the 16 and the x. Those are not like terms, but I still can I can combine these because they cancel each other out. But I can't put the number and the x together, and I don't want to, because I need to have the y on the left. And then I'm going to put the x first. So it does say negative 16 minus 3x, but I'm going to put the minus 3x first, and then the negative 16. Okay? So negative 3x minus 16. And then I want to divide both sides by negative 2. So we have y is equal to negative 3x over negative 2 minus 16 over negative 2. The negatives are going to cancel, so I'm going to get y equals 3 halves, or you can say 3x over 2, but normally you write the number out front. Okay, so 3x over 2 is the same thing as 3 halves times x. When you times something by a fraction, it gets multiplied by the numerator. So 3x over 2 is the same thing as 3 halves x. And then what's 16 over 2? 16 divided by 2 is 8, right? So negative 16 over negative 2 is also positive 8. And now that is in slope-intercept form. Okay, so let's look at the steps here. So the steps were, we need to add or subtract the x. Right? So step 1, we had to add or subtract. Or later on, we are going to have to add at some point, I'm sure. So add or subtract the x to both sides. All right, so we had to do that first. Step 2. All right, and this is if it's in standard form. So all of these equations look like they're in standard form right now. Yeah, they're all in standard form. So we are actually going to be minusing every time, because if it's in standard form, then the x is always going to be positive. And we'll have to deal with that in the next section, because they'll want standard form in the next section, which is really annoying, but it's fine. Everything's fine. So we're going to subtract the x to both sides if it's in standard form. Then we put the x first, right? So the x and then the number. We need to have the x and then the number. Right? So write the x, then the number. Right? If you put the number first, it's not technically in slope-intercept form. Your teacher might not care, but your teacher might care. And assuming your teacher is crazy, strict, then you would need to have the x first and then the number. Otherwise, they'll count you off. So then number 3. The last thing we did was we divided both sides by the number in front of y. So I'm literally just going to write that. Divide both sides by the number in front of y. In front of y. So that's it. And really, it's only like two steps, two like solving steps. The step 2 here is just to remind you to have the x and then the number. So that's not even really a step per se. It's always going to be two steps, two-step equation. All right, so let's apply this logic to number 2. We're going to subtract 13x. Okay, so negative 11y equals step 2, write the x, then the number. Apologize for my sniffles. I guess I'm allergic to something blooming right now. Florida is always blooming something. It's crazy. Okay, so we have the x and then the number. That divides. And I have y equals 13 over 11x plus 12 over 11. We can't simplify that fraction, unfortunately. It's just 12 over 11. You could write it as 1 and 1/11th, but that's too much work. At this point, you shouldn't have to write numbers as mixed numbers. We're big kids now. All right, that was number 2. Now, normally I switch every 2 questions. If you've ever seen a question, a worksheet like this before, this is part of a series on Algebra 1 worksheets. I'm going to do every single algebra worksheet that is out there that is from Kuta software, right? Which is the most common place that your teacher looks because they include the answers. So the teacher doesn't have to solve the questions themselves. So normally I do a different color, but I think I'm just going to stick with blue for all of this section, and then I'll do a different color for the next section. So we're going to solve these all the same. As I go, I'm going to go a little bit faster, solve it a little bit faster, move a little bit faster, so you can see what it looks like to basically like master this, right? And as I'm talking, I'm almost making mistakes there. Almost made that a plus 7. Then we divide by negative 7. Y equals 9/7 x plus 1. All right, negatives cancel. 7 over 7 is 1. Okay. Subtract x. Step 1. Step 2, put the x first and then the number. Step 3, divide the number in front of y. Y equals 1/3 x. All right, so that's just x on the top, which means it's a 1x. So it's 1/3 x minus 2. I forgot to box this one. Okay. So next we have minus 6x. Boom, boom. 5y equals negative 6x minus 15. Divide by 5. Y equals negative 6/5 x minus 3. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to not show the in-between steps. So I'm just going to show each step here. I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides. And then divide out the number in front, which is a negative 1. Hey, it looks like a lot less work if you don't show those in-between steps, huh? And that's eventually where you want to get to. You don't want to have to show those in-between steps all the time. So I would subtract 11x from both sides. And then divide both sides by negative 4. That makes that positive. That makes that a minus 8. Subtract 11 from both sides, 11x that is. And then divide by negative 8. Plus 6. And there we have it. All right, so it's a lot faster if you just kind of don't show that in-between step. But if you get the wrong answer when you try to do it like I did on 6, 7, and 8, then that means you're not ready for that yet. Just work your way up to it. Do some more practice, get more comfortable with subtracting and adding, multiplying and dividing things on both sides, and then you'll get there. Okay. Now we've got standard form. Well, what is standard form? Standard form is ax plus by equals c. AKA, got the x stuff, the y stuff, equals the number stuff. So the x and the y have to be on the left, and the number has to be on the right. So this time it's a little different. Earlier it was the y has to be on the left, and the x and the number have to be on the right. Now it's sort of like you just move the x over, basically. So the x has to be on the left. But there's another little trick. So a, aka the number in front of x, right? The number in front of x has to be, it has to be a whole number. A whole number. Okay, so whole numbers are 0, 1, 2, etc. Okay, so that means it can't be a fraction, right? So it can't be a fraction, and it can't be negative. Can't be a fraction, can't be negative, can't be a negative fraction, can't be a square root, right? So square roots, right? You can't have those. It can't be anything like that. It has to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, numbers like that. Okay? So let's go ahead and look at this first one here. So they give us a point and a slope. Since they're giving us a point and a slope here, what that means is we're actually going to have to start with point-slope form. Okay? So that's actually the next section. That's my alarm going off in the background, but I'm not going to get that. I don't know if you can hear that or not. If you can, let me know in the comments. Point-slope form. Okay, this form is the most useful out of them all. Point-slope form is the most useful. Point-slope form goes like this: y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. Okay, and now we have some extra x's and y's. So the point, right? So the point is x1, y1. So that's what those extra x's and y's are. Okay, that's the point that they give you. And then the slope is m. The most useful out of the three. It looks probably the most complicated. It's the longest one out of the three, so I get it, but it's very useful because we only need a point and a slope to be able to use point-slope form. So given that, we know that it's y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. Let's go back up here because we're going to actually have to start with point-slope form. We're going to have to start with it because they give us a point, x1, y1, and a slope. Since they give us a point and a slope, we have to use point-slope form. So y minus y1 equals m x minus x1. Okay, so for number 9, I'm gonna kind of work it out a lot more, but as we go, as we go along, I'm gonna show less and less work and solve it faster and faster. Y minus 2. This is just y minus 2 equals 7x minus 1. Okay, so we want to distribute the 7 next. Distribute that 7. 7x minus 7. Okay. Now that we've distributed, we can start to solve and put things on the side that they're supposed to be on. So let's come over here. We're going to need to subtract 7x on both sides because we need to get the x over on the left-hand side. So it's going to be minus 7x, right, minus 7x plus y minus 2 equals negative 7. Okay, we need to get all of the numbers. We have a number on the right-hand side, but we need all of the numbers on the right-hand side. So we need to add 2 to both sides as well. Okay, so negative 7x plus y equals negative 7 plus 2, which is negative 5. Okay, so if it weren't for the whole restrictions on what the number in front of x is supposed to be, we would be done. Because we have the x, then the y, then the number. Again, this is the reason why standard form, I dislike this one. That's why I used red for this section, because red is my least favorite color. And standard form is my least favorite of the three, by far. Like if 3 people are running a race, it's like the 2 people finish pretty close, and then the third person, you're just like, oh my gosh, why are you even out there? Like, go home, kid. Eat a salad. Okay, so we would have negative 7x plus y equals negative 5. We need to get this to be positive. Once it's positive, we're good. So we just need to multiply everything by negative 1. Multiply by negative 1. Multiply by negative 1. Multiply by negative 1. Right? So basically just flip the sign on everything. Once we do that, then we're done. Whew, that was a doozy. So it has to be positive and it cannot be a fraction. It has to be a whole number. All right, so let's look at the next one here. Y minus y1. All right, be careful with that negative, because if it's negative, then it's y minus a negative number equals m x minus x1. All right, so we have y plus 1 equals negative 1 x minus 3. So y plus 1 equals, we're going to distribute the negative 1, negative 1x plus 3. Now I'm going to do 2 steps in one here because we're starting to run out of space already. But I'm going to add x to both sides. All right, 1x and x are the same thing. And I'm going to also subtract 1 on both sides. All right, and you can actually do that. You can subtract and add things multiple times on both sides as long as you do it evenly to both sides. So I have x plus y equals 2. And that's it. Let's see here. Y minus 5 equals negative 4 x plus 2. All right, so notice this time I'm not putting parentheses around the numbers, and I made that a minus 5 and a plus 2 right off the bat. So if you see a negative sign, you know it's going to be a positive because it's x minus that number. If it's positive, it's negative, so it's the opposite sign. So it's y minus 5, x plus 2. Then I distribute the negative 4. So I get this. And then I'm going to add the 4x to both sides. And add the 4 to both sides, just like I did before. 4x plus y equals negative 4. So the other numbers can be fractions or negatives or whatever. The other numbers, the b and the c, right? So the number in front of y and the other number on the right-hand side, those numbers can be anything. They can be negative, they can be fractions, they can even be like square roots. Only the thing in front of x matters. For some reason, I don't know why. Because somebody long ago decided. Okay, so for this one, let's see here. We want y minus 5 equals 5 thirds x minus 3. So then we have y minus 5 equals 5 thirds x. And then if we're distributing this here, the 3's would cancel. It would be 5 thirds times 3. The 3's cancel and I have negative 5. Or you could multiply the tops first. 5 times 3 is 15. 15 divided by 3 is 5. Okay. So then we need to get the x on the left. So negative 5 thirds x. And we also need to get the 5 on the right. Well, actually, if we add 5 to both sides, it just goes away. It just cancels. It doesn't mean the equation goes away. It just means that it's equal to 0 now. But the x cannot be negative, and it cannot be a fraction. So we need to multiply everything by negative 3. That'll get rid of the negative, and it'll get rid of the 3 fraction thing. So negative 3, that cancels, and I have 5x. Then negative 3 times y, negative 3 times 0. And there we go. And that's how you fix it. Okay, so earlier we had to multiply by negative 1 to fix it on number 9. This time we had to multiply by a number, the denominator, right? Whatever the denominator is, multiply by that, and a negative to fix it. Okay. Here we go. Y plus 4 equals negative x minus 2. Y plus 4 equals negative x plus 2. We're going to add x to both sides, subtract 4 from both sides, and we get negative 2. All right? Pretty quick. This one's tricky. Number 14 is tricky. So actually, I think now let's go ahead and do it right now. So there's two ways to do this. You can do it the standard way, which is kind of a trick method. Your teacher might not like this method because it works, but it's not like super mathematically accurate. Because you're not supposed to like be able to divide by 0. So your teacher might not like this method, or maybe they will, or maybe they don't care, but I'm going to show you anyways. So y minus 5 equals undefined. Undefined means 1 over infinity. It's like literally what that means. Undefined means infinity, which is 1 over 0. So the slope is 1 over 0, x minus 2. Okay, now we can't really like distribute that because again it's 1 over 0. But I can multiply both sides by 0. This is kind of tricky. I'm going to multiply both sides by 0. And then that all would just be 0. 0 equals x minus 2, and then I would add 2 to both sides. Okay, and I get x equals 2. Okay, kind of tricky, but if you're going to do it this way, you have to do it where you multiply both sides by the 0. Okay, so then the other way to do this would be to know, just to know, right? So the other way to do this is just to know. When the slope is undefined, that means we're going to have x equals a number. And it's going to be x equals whatever the x value of the point is, right? The x1. So x equals x1, aka x equals 2. All right, so 2 equals x, x equals 2, same thing. If you don't use the point slope form thing, then you would just have to know, right? So you just have to know that an undefined slope would be x equals, and a 0 slope would be y equals. All right, let's go ahead and look at the next two here. Y minus 1 equals 1 half x minus 3. Y minus 1 equals 1 half x minus 3 halves. And then we want to get the x on the left. So I'm going to subtract a 1 half x on both sides. And I'm going to add 1 to both sides. This is kind of tricky because if I add 1, I'm saying I'm adding 2 halves. 1 is 2 over 2. And if I do it this way, then I can get negative 1 half. Then I want to multiply by negative 2 because I can't have a denominator and I can't have a negative number. If I multiply by negative 2, I get 1. Negative 2 times negative 1 half is 1, so that's 1x. Negative 2 times y. And then negative 2 times 1 half again. And I get that. All right, last one. We have y minus 2 equals 2x plus 1. Y minus 2 equals 2x plus 2. We would want to subtract the 2x on both sides, and then add 2 to both sides. Then we want to multiply by a negative. We don't need to fix the 2. The 2 is fine. The negative is the problem. So I multiply by negative 1. 2x minus y equals negative 4. And there we go. Okay, we're on the last section now. We can do this. This is actually going to be the easiest out of all of them. Because remember what I said, point slope is the best one? They want you to write the equation in point slope form. Well, that's the most useful one. It's the one that you normally start with. So watch how easy this is. If it's parallel, parallel means same slope, right? So the slope is always going to be that number if it's in slope-intercept form, right? They give us these equations in slope-intercept form, which means they give us the slope. There's the slope. Okay? So we just plug them in, right? Y minus y1 equals m x minus x1. And we're done. That's it. They wanted us to write it in point slope form. We don't need to distribute the 3/4. We don't need to solve it for y. We don't need to get the number in front of x to be a whole number. This is way easier than what we were doing before. This is the easiest of the 3 sections, right? If you disagree with me, let me know in the comments. But this is a way easier, I think. Okay, so we have y minus y1 equals m x minus x1. All right, so that's y plus 3. We do want to make sure that it has the right sign if it's a double negative, right? So that's the only part that you would want to fix, is we want to make sure if we have a double negative, we change it to a positive. Other than that, that's it. That's all the work you do. Okay, y minus y1 equals m x minus x1 minus a negative, so it's positive. And then if it's 0, we would want to, just get rid of the 0. But we do not need to distribute. This would be fine. Maybe even the one before it, y minus 0. It's a little redundant, but maybe even that. Y minus y1 equals m x minus x1. So minus a negative 1. And that's it. All right, that's it. You don't have to do any work. It's in point slope form. Y minus y1, so just y, parallel to that. So m x minus x1. Done. Y minus y1, so plus 4, equals m, which is negative 1, x minus x1. Done. That's it, guys. That is it. We're on the last leg here. Y minus y1 equals m x minus x1. Done. Y minus y1 equals m x minus x1. And that is it, guys. That is it. All right. If this has been helpful, I'd like to give you another helpful thing for free. It's called the 5 math mistakes everyone makes and how to avoid them. It's on my website, myersmathematics.com. Link in the description below. This is the answers. All right. So if I mess something up, let me know. I'll fix it. But here's the answers. These worksheets always have the answers in them. So if you're just looking for the answers, you don't need all this. Just look it up. Just Google it. It has all the answers in it. I would encourage you to, because like if the teacher is pulling this from the internet, they know it has the answers in it. And you guys are not dumb. You know how to look up these stuff. Okay? You just type in writing linear equations, worksheet, and then maybe type in Kuta. And then it'll be the first thing that comes up. And it'll have all the answers in it on the second page, or the third page and the fourth page here. Okay? So if you're just looking for the answers, you can always do that. If it's a Kuta worksheet, it'll always have the answers in it, unless the teacher like modified it or something. And then, yeah. So here's the solutions. If you want the solutions, you can send me an email. I have my email in the description below because I am also a tutor. So my email is in the description below in case you would like tutoring in a subject. But that's all I've got for today. I hope this has been helpful, and I'll see you in another video real soon.